Hey friends, it's Abby and
Bill Crawford.
yay, here for a special edition
Yeah.
of Quarantined Parentcast. Because
Oh
why
my
not?
God. Yeah.
So we thought it would actually be a good time, not only for us probably personally, but to check
Yeah.
in with everybody and talk about best practices maybe that you've learned early here in quarantine, and also just a mental health check for all of the parents who are now working from home, full-time educator, and also trying not to harm your children. I might be being a little
That's important.
specific there. So let's start with, where are you taking this call from, Bill? Because that's a beautiful room.
Um, oh, thank you. This is actually, I converted my daughter's old playroom into a studio where I'm doing the DVD morning show from. And this, I was trying to get them interested in camping. So I painted, I don't know if you could see,
Yeah.
there's like mountains. And I had like a little RV camper in here, and this was sort of their playroom. And spoiler alert, they don't care about camping at all. And now I just have these mountains, but I spent so much time and and tears painting these things and getting them right
They're
that I just
beautiful.
keep them up. Thank you. They make me feel good.
Good. It's gorgeous. We
So
we did like pretty flower wallpaper in Edie's room, and we were pretty
yeah.
surprised our marriage survived that. But it did,
Yeah.
and we got it done
Good.
with an X-Acto knife, but we
Yeah.
made it happen. Um
Well, listen, I'm just telling you now, as someone who has removed wallpaper, that will end your marriage.
that's the
So
one
do
that
me a
does it.
favor and hire somebody. I don't care how much money it is. It will be expensive. It's worth it.
it's it's
It's
it's
worth it.
less expensive than having to dissolve all of our assets. So,
Right.
very good. Well,
Yeah.
so you are working from home, same as me, and because we have
Yeah.
similar jobs, I have to imagine we have somewhat of a similar experience. I used to have a little bit more leadway with Joe working at maybe a more sporadic pace, but he actually works in
Yeah.
healthcare, not on the front lines like other folks who are doing amazing stuff right now and stuff that they should never have to do. But he's working in healthcare, so he's taking phone calls all day. So like it's changed in that we used to be able to like tag, you're it for an hour and a half so I can do some work, and that's not the
Right.
case anymore. So it's starting to get pretty
Yeah.
insane. So how are you doing with the girls in terms of balancing when you're trying to work and when they want you to be dad?
Okay, well, my situation is very different. In 2018, I separated and got divorced. My divorce was finalized last year. So when I have the girls, it's like it's me, and there is no tag, you're it.
Right.
So it's been a lot more difficult in that regard because you kind of have to do 24-hour care, which I was not used to. And I try to tell people like the first weekend that this all went down was my weekend. We trade off weekends. We have
Sure.
50-50 custody with the kids. And the first weekend, like that Saturday, we woke up, and this is sort of like our new normal. We watched two movies. We jumped on the trampoline outside. We played basketball. We took the dog for a walk. We came back in, and it was 11 a.m. And the girls are like, What are we gonna do today? And I'm like, we did it.
That was
We're
it.
out. Like we're done. Like I don't know. Is this how long is this gonna go?
Yeah.
Um, so that part is very hard. But so whenever I wake up, I have to like the night before pre-make their breakfast. So I've been putting out like cereal with saran wrap over it and a banana and like setting these stations up for them so that it's super easy for them to make themselves breakfast.
That's smart.
And then just in the commercial breaks, I just go out and kind of check on them. And then I've been letting them have way more device time than is cool or
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. I,
Um,
I think
and
all the
I
rules are
feel
out the
bad about that.
window.
Yeah, yeah.
We're
Everybody's screen time is up.
with Edie too. I mean, and that was a big thing that I think we talked a lot about in season one was, I mean, trying to have engaging time with your kid and like how much screen time's too much. And I'm now like hey, it's just what we have to do. There was actually a nice, I don't know, it's like one of those photos with text, like a kind of like a, I don't want to call it a meme, but I guess it kind of is, that my
Yeah.
therapist sent me. And it was basically saying that all these parents now are trying to do truly 3 jobs at once, and it's impossible. So
Yeah.
don't feel like you're doing a bad job, because you will feel like you're doing a
Right.
bad job. This is just anytime when you have a choice to make with your kids, go for the one that allows you to make a connection with them, which I liked, because that might mean we're going to watch Rainbow Ruby and we're just going to sit on the couch with each other. And that's a more valuable
Yeah.
connection than us fighting over teaching you the letter S, in which you're going to freak the hell
Yeah.
out and hate me for it.
Yeah.
But that is,
Yeah.
I love that you're giving them, though, a chance to find some independence in even just having to sustain themselves in the morning. But what is the most,
Yeah.
like, I'll give you an example. The most ridiculous thing that I've had to do while I was doing the show, during a commercial break, run upstairs, I had to unclog the toilet after my daughter managed to clog the toilet. And then
Yeah.
and then I'm Lysoling everything. I've got gloves on. I'm literally covered in shit. And then I like get myself completely cleaned up, come back down, and I'm like, Foo Fighters. So
That's impressive.
I thought so.
So you're doing 4 jobs now, because you're
Plumber.
also the plumber.
I lost my endorsement for Matt Mertz Plumbing. I know I got.
One of the craziest things, like my girls don't really fight, like physically, they bicker nonstop, and that crushes me.
Yeah.
But the other day it get physical, and while I was on the air, they kicked each other in the vagina at the same time, and it was like some sort of youth MMA double knockout where they were both crying on the floor. And I'm like, this isn't happening. This isn't allowed to happen. Why did this even happen? How did it happen? Like,
you just like sent me back to my childhood of how many times my sister kicked me in the vagina. Like, it's just because you forget how bad it hurts. Because you think for women it shouldn't hurt so bad, but oh my God,
I never knew, and I still don't know how bad it hurt.
And there's
really
still
don't.
pieces there. They're probably not as delicate and sensitive, but there's still pieces there. It's just like any other part of your body. If you kick it hard enough, it's going to hurt.
This is an aside, but this is really kind of funny. Like there was a sketch that I saw. It was at the Upright Citizens Brigade when I lived in LA. And this guy was like, I am going to break the world record for getting kicked in the nuts. And I need somebody from the audience to help me reach my goal and achieve my dream. And he picks this guy out of the audience. And I didn't know this guy at the time. It ended up being Rob Riggle. Okay, so he comes out. Rob Riggle is huge. And he like looks up at him. He's like, hey, man, you look kind of familiar. He's like, yeah, I'm a kicker for the Raiders. And he's like, are you ready? And he kicks him in the balls, and the guy goes down. He's writhing in pain for like 2 minutes, and he stands up and he's like, 1, and then the lights go flash.
I love that. That's actually like, it's a good analogy too of like literally parenting right now is just getting kicked in the nuts over and over and over again until and counting and then getting back up and doing it again.
I said on the morning show this week that I feel like right now every day is like I'm starting the marathon up with the Kenyans, and by mile 3 I have 7 blisters. I've pulled both my hamstrings and my nipples are bleeding. And there's 23.1 miles to go.
Yeah, we just started.
We're not even at lunch.
No.
And I am hanging on by a thread.
I get that. I feel like we hit day 14 a couple of days ago. And in some ways, like to take this quarantine in kind of small digestible bites and not lose your sanity by looking too far ahead, we kind of circled some dates on the calendar, like, okay, so day 14 for us is here, day 14 for one set of grandparents is here, and like maybe we can start to figure out other things we can do here. But like with how many new restrictions have now been added on, like that victory lap was short-lived. We're like, great, you did 2 weeks, do two more.
2 more.
Which in a way you're like, okay, I got through the 2 weeks. And for my husband and I don't think he would mind me saying so, we were joking that like in some ways this quarantine has been like free marriage counseling in a way where we haven't had the opportunity to not have the fight. If he and I have any like major deficit, it's like, especially when it comes to childcare, that we might get irritated the way the other is doing something, but our problem is that we won't fight about it. So you just kind of like shove it back in there and just go like, that really irritated me the way you're doing that right now, but whatever, I'll get over it. And then like 2 days later, you're totally not over it. And then you're quipping over nothing.
Right.
So what was really good, and I'll give Joe a lot of credit. There was a night that we had, it was probably like our second day, really, really tough with Edie, where I'm starting to think that just the change in her not going to daycare and her being with us all the time and not her friends is disruptive. And so she's having a lot of potty accidents. She's crying over everything. And she is a hilarious drama queen. But in this setting, it's not funny. And so
it's not funny.
No, she does, everything's huge. And she says things like, never! And just like throws her hands back, and you're like, Jesus. But you can only take that for so long, and then even the cutest little thing will break you. And so we had like 2 really bad days. And so to Joe's credit, he was like, we're going to sit down and write to each other in the same room, like, what do you expect from your spouse through the duration of this quarantine? And also, what things do you miss that you used to do as an individual and as a family that you think we could still find time to work into our day? And we went through that, and holy shit, it was so helpful to, one, get it all out there. But then it was a calmer time to have that conversation because she wasn't in the room. She was asleep. And it's definitely helped us snap back into like, we have to get these things out either in this kind of setting, or we just kind of have to have the fight responsibly when it's happening so that we can correct it, because we really don't have the ability or, you know, the leisure to like go work on it somewhere else, or like go on a quiet walk together, or go on a date or whatever. You know, it's just, we don't have that time anymore. So we've had to like maximize it. And that's maybe, now that I think about it, one of the only good things that's come out of the quarantine is it helped us resolve some.
That's so smart that you're doing that. I mean, whenever I was still married, we were in marriage counseling, and one of the biggest things that they tell you is that you have to share your expectations with your partner, because a lot of us carry these expectations around. And then when you put it out there and you tell your partner, they're always like, I had no idea. What? You thought I was supposed to be doing this? Like, you expected me to do that? Like, they were the other person was completely unaware. And so this resentment builds up over something that you never communicated. And so it's like, how am I supposed to fix something that I'm unaware of the origins of?
I totally love that verbiage, because you're absolutely right. You kind of think that like, just because, you know, you got married in the first place, that all of the rules were set very early on, and they weren't. And especially as you know, the longer that you're married, things change. And if you don't adapt to it, you just drive each other nuts. And I think one of the things that was helpful in terms of how it works into our parenting is like the first couple of days I was full Pinterest mom, and I was like, I made a color-coded schedule. And what we'll
Yeah.
do is like, here are the activities you can do during your time, and then here's my time, and then here's your time again, and then it's family time, and then it's
Mhm.
bedtime. And so I made that
How
schedule.
quickly did that burn out?
Mm, I made, oh God, it was a disaster. But like, so I think on day one, well, I'll back up. I slid the schedule toward him after he had put Edie to bed. And I said, I made it color coded so we knew what time was my time and what time was your time, because then we can switch off and work. And he looked at it
Mhm.
over a bowl of cereal and went, looks fine. And so to me, that was a buy in to the schedule.
Mm.
And to him, it was saying, piss off. And so whenever
Wow.
we started day one, and I'm down here doing the show, and they're like upstairs having like WWE Raw, I'm like, what the hell? What's up with the schedule?
Right,
And then I
right.
would like suggest an activity to him, and the thing he kept saying was, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Like, go away. And so by day two of bad communication, I said, what I expected, and what I continue to expect is some kind of robust buy-in, that we have to have a schedule, because you seem like you're having a bad time with her. Like, when I come to relieve you, you're telling me it was awful. And so if it's awful, then I'm
Yeah.
trying to give you a thoughtful list of options of things that you can do, so that it doesn't feel awful. And he said, I don't feel like I had anything to do with making that schedule. And I said, you didn't vote. I passed it along to you, said, what do you think? You gave me nothing. You didn't vote. And he took a pulse with that and said, I didn't vote because, if we're being honest, I just don't want to do this. And I have to get better at that. I have to accept that nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants it to be this way. And I can't put myself in front of our family. And so I promise you, I will try to do this schedule tomorrow, and I will do better to like have more thoughtful quality time with her, and instead of wishing it was over, which makes you feel bad as a parent too, because you're just kind of like, can you go to
Yeah.
bed? And then we tried the schedule, and he did a great job with it. And then by day two, his job had changed a lot, and then we were like, TV is absolutely
Yeah.
fine. It's fine.
TV.
I grew up
Lots
on
of
MTV.
TV.
I'm okay, right?
Yeah, it's all fine. I mean, look, we're talking best practices, and I try to just set some general parameters for every day. I say there's three things that we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to exercise our bodies, we're going to try to exercise our mind, and we're going to try to have fun. And those three things are going to be, are general enough where I don't do it military, because I could go Clark Griswold in a Hollywood minute, and then what ends up happening is I am whistling zippity doo dah out my asshole in the bathroom, and not in a good way. Like I'm screaming into my pillow at night because everything went to shit.
Yeah.
And I think that the more rigid you try to be with how you put your day together, the more of again, we're talking expectations. Like, you expect them to just like live in this permanent gratitude for what you've put together for
Oh,
them,
yeah.
and that's just not how the kids operate. So I just realized, like, they're not having fun, even though my intentions are good. I'm not having fun. This sucks. So
Yeah.
what can we do to just like, so it's a constant, just like with marriage, just like with anything. Like, I always look at it like it's never done. Like, I am one of those people, like, I am such a linear thinker and person. When I want it to be done. Like,
Yeah.
I want it to be like, I put the list together, I put the schedule together, and then I never look at it again. And they're going to love it every day. There's not going to be one thing on there that they don't have a great time doing. And I'm going to be the parent of the year. And it never works out like that. It
Right.
is a constant work. Your work is never, like, you're never there. It's not a destination. It's always the journey. And you're constantly doing check-ins and rerouting and trying to figure out something else to do
Yeah.
while we're all trapped inside. You know?
You're smart enough to know that that is required, because I think that's probably where some of the biggest hiccups and kind of like emotionally scarring, at least for me, times came in the first few days, where it was like we're fighting over like kind of schoolwork stuff, and it's mostly that she's of, her brains at a really like formative age where we do need to work on speech and letters and numbers. And so I don't want to abandon those things, but she doesn't look at me like a teacher. I'm her mother. And so when I'm
Right.
doing that, because I'm inexperienced, I know there's stay-at-home moms who probably have a lot better handle on managing that, but she's more, I think, apt to buck back at me and say that I'm being mean to her, when I'm just trying to push her through a learning curve the way I imagine a teacher would do it. But because, again, I don't have that skill set,
Right.
she's just like, no, you're being an ass to me. Like, I don't want to do this now. And
Right.
now I'm going to figure out something else like really dramatic to stop this from happening. And then that's when we get all of those tantrums. But you're right, it has to change all the time. But you made me think of something too, that I wanted to ask you, just because we have such differing ages here with our children. So your girls, I feel like, would be able to comprehend what this situation is a lot more than Edie does. So how have you explained this to them, and how did they receive it?
Well, how old is Edie again?
She's 3.5, so she'll be 4 in July.
Okay. So my sister has kids that are from 6 down to 1, and the 3-year-old is she said her life it's Groundhog's Day. Every day she has to re-explain everything.
Yeah.
The girls, my girls are Emma's going to be 9, and Kennedy just turned 13 in quarantine. Which was
that's right.
interesting.
That's right. You got everybody to send her happy birthday messages. That was so cute, and her thank you video to that was adorable.
Oh, she really appreciated it, and thank you for making the video. That was really cool and sort of unique, and a different way to celebrate birthday. Is something that she'll never forget. I know that she obviously was bummed that she couldn't be around her friends and her family, but that was really, really cool. So I've basically explained this to them in the way of just telling them that, look, this is. The health professionals are telling us this. I let them watch 20 minutes of news a night.
Oh, wow.
Because what happens is, and I don't ever watch the news with the kids like in normal times, but this is something that I wanted to show them, because I needed to put what I'm saying into context and show them that, like, this isn't just about you not being able to have a play date with your friend. People are in the hospital. People are suffering. The entire world is shut down. So just wanting to like give them that context in a small enough amount of time where I can just watch a little bit of the news with them, and then we shut the TV off and we just sort of talk about it, and I let them ask me questions, and we just have a conversation about, like, how crazy this is. And I've never been through anything like this, so I'm honest about that. Like, because I know most parents out there like have this moment of panic when they wake up, like, I don't know what's going on. How am I supposed to tell my kid what's going on?
Right.
Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah. That's where we are for sure. Every day that we do get to like debrief with each other and talk about what we learned today, which I'm trying to do almost what you're doing with the girls, where I'm not allowing myself too much scrolling time. We don't have cable in the house, which is I'm actually a little pissed off about now, because AT&T Sportsnet is doing all those Penguin games, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm a little pissed that we don't have cable right now, but I have bunny ears just so that while I'm on the air, I can kind of see like a news channel and stay somewhat up to date. So it is a lot of scrolling for me, but I've now made it like I can scroll when I'm doing the morning show, and I can scroll when I'm doing one of my national shows for the overnight people. And then anytime after 8 p.m., I cannot touch my phone unless I'm taking a call.
Oh, wow.
Because I was not sleeping. I would not end
Yeah.
up getting to bed until like 11, and then I would stay
Yeah.
up until 1:30 panicking about things I truly cannot do anything about, because we just kind of
Yeah.
have to wait and see on a lot of this stuff. With Edie, we I think uh and your family experiencing the same thing is that, like, you kind of think that maybe she has some comprehension on it because you have a really thoughtful conversation and she might repeat something back to you and you're like, yes, yes, oh my god, you get it, okay, awesome.
Yeah. You get it. Okay.
And then the next day we're having a fight because we can't go over to Clara's house. And
Yeah.
so we tried to dumb it down, and the only way that we can explain it is to be a slightly hyperbolic and just say, everybody's sick right now. Everybody's sick right now,
Mhm.
so we don't have anybody to play with. So we just have to stay in the house, and like, I see Clara's outside, but remember, she's sick right now, so we don't want to get sick, and so we all have to stay inside.
Mhm.
And to Joe's credit again, he told Edie, he goes, Edie, you didn't do anything wrong. And
Yeah.
I was like thinking like, oh my God, I didn't even think about the possibility that she could interpret the fact that we're not letting her go play with somebody, or we're not going to the bouncy place, or we're not going out like to the bookstore, like that she might perceive those as punishment for something. Because normally it would be. Normally we would be like, oh my God, you've been
Yeah.
so bad, we're not going to the library or whatever. And so now she's just like being constantly punished or whatever. And so I didn't think about that part. And so now I've been saying that as we've had to reiterate that concept a little more, where I'm going, Edie, you didn't do anything wrong. Everybody's sick right now. So we just have to make sure that we don't get other people sick and that we
Yeah.
don't get sick. And so we're just going to think of a bunch of other stuff we can do in the house. But making like letters for friends, I thought that was like
Oh, that's fun.
the greatest mom hack. I'm like, okay, so she's got a best friend that doesn't live close, so we're writing her letters. I mean, mommy's writing her letters, Edie's tracing, but you know what I mean. But then there's like a little girl that lives across the street that she's obsessed with. They're frenemies, so they like to hang out with each other, to exclusively fight with each other. And we've been dropping off little crafts and letters to her. But every time I do it, it turns into I want to go in the house. I'm like, you cannot. And she's not coming out. I'm being like, well, tell her to come over then. I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. So we just keep trying.
No.
Just keep trying.
Joe did something that's really smart because, I still go to therapy, and a lot of what we talk about is my kids,
Yeah.
because I'm just trying to, like, I don't have the words, or how do I deal with this emotion dealing with two girls? Like, I want to support them the best way that I can. And he said, look, I know that they seem like they're fully developed humans. They're not. They're human imposters. They are one dimensional. So they only think in this very one way. And so, like, a kid that is 3 or 3.5 all of a sudden feels like she probably broke the world. Like, she would
Yeah.
internalize that and not know how to, like, put it in the context of, oh, this has nothing to do with me. Everything has to do with me. At
Right.
that, like, for a kid,
Yeah.
their brains are forming. We have to be taught, and we have to have the selfishness beaten out of us through many years of being taught, like, because everything is always about us. The universe is us. We
Right.
are, everything is, it's about me, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
No, you're right. And actually
that's really
going back to
smart.
the therapy too, which is really nice too. If anybody has a therapist, a lot of therapists are doing like what we're doing right now, just sessions.
Virtual therapy.
And
Yeah.
I know my therapist ended up their whole practice is like, waiving copays is to incentivize people to use telemedicine as opposed to being in person. And so I was like, we did this whole session, and then she was like, no copay. And I'm like, all right. But she also gave me an app.
That's awesome.
She also gave me an app that is free for anybody who feels like they could use an assist in the world of therapy or any kind of mental health care, called Sanvello. It's SANVELLO. and it is completely unlocked, and all the premium stuff is open. It's free for the month because they know people need access to mental health care right now. And you can
Yeah.
use the app and all of its features. It has meditation exercises, it has videos, it has ways for you to kind of input where you are in your day. I don't, obviously that's not a plug for anything other than the fact that I've been using it to go to sleep at night, and I think it's helpful. So it's free if anybody
Yeah,
does
that's
want to use
great.
that. But one of the things that Gretchen said, and I can use her first name because she's been on a Parentcast before, so that's in season 1,
Yeah,
which anybody
Gretchen's great.
if anybody feels like they're in need of season 1, it's all ready to go, 10 episodes for you. So, but Gretchen was talking about with kids that I think I made a reference to saying something like, I feel like we're always one choose your adventure step away from screwing her up permanently, because I don't remember when my first real memories were as a little kid, but like I have had things that stuck with me as a child that I know formed who I was as an adult. And so I keep preoccupying myself with preventing that in Edie. And so what Gretchen said is, what kids will remember about now are all connected to an emotion. It's all connected. It's not about that specific thing where like, oh, mommy made me do quiet time like 7 times in one day.
Yeah.
It's that I felt protected, or I felt loved, or I felt not loved, or I felt lonely, or whatever it was. Like, what kids will take with them from this experience is more connected to what emotion surrounds the whole thing. So, and that even goes back to you teaching them, honestly, how to get breakfast in the morning, is like, they might end up being like empowered, autonomous, like something that they can carry forward as a teenager and an adult, that you might be really doing them a great service.
I mean, one of the things that I tried to do is I took the girls to Disney World, and it was a very dramatic and long, drawn out process to plan this thing, and I put like 80 hours in, and it was just absurd, like just all the different things you had to plan. But they told me like, well, your daughter is like 6, so I don't know if she'll remember this. So I made sure, like, after we got off every ride, I smacked her in the face, and I was like, you never forget this. Because I feel like some kind of trauma,
just something
they will always, like, they'll remember it. Now, it might be negative, but that's even better for me, because then we never have to go back.
You never have to go back to
because
Disney.
She has a bad memory. That's where Dad used to smack me after every ride.
I think I've said this to you before too, is that I always said before we had Edie that, like, when I have kids, I'm just gonna let them think that Disney is the place on TV and nowhere else. Like, we're never gonna go.
Right.
It's just the castle at the beginning of the movie, but it's not a real place, and we don't go there.
Not a real place. I hope that for you. I wish that that is a dream that you get to fulfill and never have to see the inside of one of those parks.
Here's hoping.
Although it is pretty amazing.
I know.
Like, I had never been there. That was part of it. I wanted to go.
Talk about my childhood that ended up forming who I am as an adult. Like, we went as a family. I don't remember how old I was. I have pictures. That's the only way I remember it. But I was a pretty high anxiety kid and somewhat of a high anxiety adult, but a little more managed. And my sister and I hate rides. Just hate them. Just don't like them. And so we learned that very early as little kids, that we didn't want anything to do with it. And so we wouldn't go on anything. And my parents were pissed because they were just like, oh my God. And then fast forward to, by the way, that my sister grew up to be an equestrian. And so she does cross-country jumps on like Olympic-sized stuff, like the most dangerous stuff I've ever seen in my life, and still won't go on a roller coaster, which makes me feel better because I just won't do any of that stuff. Yeah. But
Why? Where did that come from? Like, can you trace it back?
I
Like,
can trace it back somewhat genetically, oddly enough, which is odd because, like, other than that, I don't really know why. Other than maybe it's a control thing. But like my dad, even though for the majority of his career has had to fly nonstop, has a fear of flying. So
hmm.
he's got a prescription for that. Um, but his mother was afraid of escalators, afraid of elevators, hated hills when they were driving, like couldn't stand going up and down hills.
Whoa.
And the older she got, you know, agoraphobic might be a little bit of a drama word to use, but I mean, she kind of was. She used to like kind of just close everything off, and everything was locked. And at the end of the night, she went upstairs and locked her bedroom door, and that was it. That was the end of the night. And so, I think that's just like an anxiety that's in that bloodline. But for me, I think it's
She would
mostly
have enjoyed this. Like, she's built for the
she would have
quarantine.
been like, "Oh my god, that's like the saddest thing now."
Thank
Is like
God.
this was her time to shine. She'd be like, "Dude, I did 17 puzzles already. Get out of here." Um, but yeah, we never liked to do the rides at all. But I think at 13, my parents made us go to Disney again. But my sister like refused to go, and they said, "Okay, like, all right, you don't have to go," because I think she had horse shows that she, yeah, she was like young enough, but early enough in her career that she was doing horse shows, and so she stayed with somebody else and said, "I'm not going to Disney." And so I went, and then my parents tortured me the whole time because they're like, "You're going on some shit," and it firmed it up for me more than ever that I hate rides. Like every
Oh
picture
my
that I
God,
have of me just
funny.
screaming my head off, I'm like, nope, never. So I don't know if we'll go back. If we do,
That is like the craziest excuse that I've heard for somebody not going to Disney World. Like, I can't. I have horse shows. You guys know I have horse shows.
I'm just not
I
gonna
have
go.
horse shows all weekend. I can't. I
I
can't
just
go.
still cannot figure out for the life of me. Like, my older sister is 18 months older than me. It's not like she's like 5 years older than me. So like why did I have to go? How did I not get excused from that? And she's just like, it's like when you find out your babysitter was only like 2 years older than you, and you're like, why were you in charge?
Smoking. Yeah. So wait, who rode rides with you? Because if your dad's like afraid of heights and all that, like who did
My
you ride by
parents.
yourself?
No, no, no. They went on rides with me. I'm not sure
Okay.
actually. I should have asked him that and been like, "So wait, when we were doing Splash Mountain, were you also
Yeah.
shitting your pants or was it just me?" Because like he seemed to be insistent upon it, and I just everything that we went on, I asked them, "Is there a hill? Like is there going to be a drop?" And they started lying to me at some point. Like at some point we were in like the Epcot area, and I know that there was like it was either Iceland, I think it was Iceland or Norway or something like that. There was some kind of ride, and it was like you're on a boat like in It's a Small World. And I said, "Is there a waterfall or any kind of hill on this thing?" And they're like, "No." And it was like 30
Oh.
seconds into the ride, and we're like, "Ah!" And I'm like, "I hate you. I'm never doing this again." Like, why? So every ride I look
Is
like
there a
this.
drop on this?
Yeah.
No, of course not. It says Demon Drop. It says this ride is called Demon Drop.
Yes.
It
What
feels like
it's
there's a drop on this.
that says Tower of Terror. What does that mean? Let's find out.
Yeah. I loved it. I mean, that was another one of those experience where again I went full Griswold, and I mean I was in chat rooms. The thing is that you have to put the experience together,
Yeah.
and there's all these moving pieces. You have to figure out where you're going to stay. You have to and then there's levels of that. So it's like luxury, intermediate, discount, or value, or whatever they call
Yeah.
it. And are you going to be on property, or are you going to be off site? And then what's your meal plan going to be? And then this and then that. And then, I mean, and you're so far in, and people are making all of their meal reservations 6 months in advance, and they're figuring out their fast passes 3 months in advance. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to ride on Thursday at 10 a.m.
Right. Well, so
I,
that reminds me too, because it's kind of like planning a wedding, in
yeah,
a way. But like, do you have families that you know of, like they just go to Disney all the time?
yeah, yes.
What is
I grew up,
how?
my first like real girlfriend, her parents went to Disney every single year. They had a china closet in their dining room, but instead of china, it was filled with like Disney figurines.
Aw.
And at the time, did not have that feeling about it. I was like, this is creepy. The parents loved it like just as much.
Yeah.
And and so like I knew that they went every single year, and they're like, Disney is like one of those tiered experiences
Hmm.
where like you could enjoy it. It's sort of like comic books or something. Like you can enjoy it on just like a surface level, like, ooh, this is cool. I like the artwork, or I like the storyline. But then it goes like super deep, where like people cosplay, and then there's like this whole pin trade thing where if you're wearing like some kind of flair, and a worker in the park is walking by and they have flair, and you go, I want to trade you, they have to trade you, and then
What?
they have to get you like a comparable pin. Yeah, I didn't get that deep, but like I was aware of that world. That's how
Uh,
much I was studying, like leading up to it. And I
that's
was
like when
like,
the
I
people
got to get
used to
out of
have
this.
like the different color handkerchiefs to tell you their sexual preference, and you've been like, I'm just not gonna get into that.
Right. No, I'm gonna stay out of the handkerchief game completely. Like we're not doing it.
Oh my god.
Like
No,
I didn't want to get in too deep, you
yeah.
know?
No. Oh my god. But like, I guess what I don't get is like, there we were away with friends a long time ago now, because even just like bringing that up, you're like, not recently. But
Last
we
time in the last month.
Yeah, right. But we had been talking to another family who had like younger boys, and they were talking about how they, basically, here's how you do Disney. And it was this whole like, rigmarole. And Joe and I could not care less about going to Disney, like, and have no plans to take her anytime soon. Maybe that'll change in the future. But we just were like kind of listening, but also not listening. And then when we got done with that conversation, I was like, so I guess we know who's got some money. Like they were just talking about like going to Disney, like coughing, like, or just being like, yeah, we just go to Disney and whatever. And it's like the same thing where when you have a celebrity telling you about a COVID-19 test that they had, be like, oh, I guess we just found
Yeah.
out who's got some money.
Yeah, that is it's sort of like politicians not knowing the price of milk.
Yes, yes.
People are out of touch and don't realize that they come off like, I went to Disney, and it was sort of like this. I knew that we were only going to do it one time, and I saved up forever for it, and
Right.
it cost so much. I mean, it was an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
And then once you get there, you have the experience, and it's like, hopefully, the memories last forever. But, if they don't, I mean, okay, that's just another beating I took. Um, you know, this one in the wallet, and you live and you learn, and you keep on keeping on.
Yeah. We'll wrap with this because we'll have to both get back to our full-time jobs and then also parenting. What are you doing to keep yourself sane through all of this? Like, are there ways, in your opinion, for parents, whether single or with a partner or with help from grandparents? Because I still see some people doing that too, where I'm like, wait, I thought we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So are there ways you think that people can kind of maintain their own sanity and self-care through the whole thing?
Well, you just hit the word that I was going to use. The phrase is self-care to me is the most selfless thing you could possibly do. If I don't wake up and take a cold shower, and I don't run, and I don't do like a push-up workout, or I don't do the things for me, I'm no good for anybody that I love or that loves me. And so a lot of the times we always like defer ourself as this it's sort of like a mirage of selflessness, but it's really selfish because you end up like what you're doing is you're indulging your own insecurity or your own apathy, like, or your own like lack of confidence to do something for yourself. And so you're just like, oh, I'll put off me, and you just keep putting it off, and all you do is wear yourself down to a nub, and then you're no good. You can't help anybody.
Right.
Like you have a responsibility to take care of yourself. And the cool thing about now is that we all have all of the day to figure out how we're going to do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so since you don't have to get up and go to work, maybe it's waking up before your kids get up and going for a run, or, you know, turning on the TV or pulling up your computer. I mean, all of these workout places, like my trainer that I was going to up in Wexford, this guy, it's Pure Edge Training.
Mm-hmm.
He started offering virtual training sessions online. There's all these Instagram people that I follow that are just putting out workouts you can do from home with a towel or like a bottle of water. And they're giving you like all these body workouts. And I just think that there's like no excuse to not be doing that now. So, I mean, if you can't do it now, like it's impossible. Because
yeah, like, but the thing that I think is important to note with you, and I don't mean to like minimize that it's beyond just like what, you know, physical stuff you want to do for your body, but you've mentioned this before too, that like exercise for you is like a brain bath. And so even if somebody like doesn't physically like want to work out, like you're used to being a couch potato, being like, I'm not going to start 21-day fix right now, be like, this is for your brain as much as it's for your body.
Yeah, even if it's just mindfulness, like if you download the Calm app, or, you know, do like some meditation or whatever it is. It could be a walk. It could just be calling somebody you haven't talked to, like just doing things to take care of you is absolutely important, because if you're not right, the domino effect, I see it with my kids. Like, and I'm not saying this to try to be harsh. I'm saying it because I've done it. Like, I have put myself off in the name of selflessness and being like, oh, I'm all about the kids. And then I think about it and I'm like, I honestly didn't want to go for a run. So I made an excuse that I had to do something for my kids, or I found a way to like not do the thing that would actually help me do the other thing. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. With
and
Joe,
I know that you do a lot of that stuff too.
I try, but with Joe, like I know for him personally, yesterday was like a beautiful sunny day. And to me, I'm like, awesome. We are going to go on the deck and I'm going to put out a tarp and a water table and let's just get messy and I won't have to think about this. This is awesome. And he seemed like he was really struggling with it being sunny because he still felt tethered to be home, but he wanted to go bike. And it's like, I just want to ride my bike. And like, you know, he goes on these like crazy, like 60 and 70 mile jaunts and then just comes back. And he's like, oh, I had a good workout. It took him like 30 minutes. He's like, yeah, I think I'm good. So, but we've talked about that a bunch of times where as much as he is trying to spare me from solo, very much uninterrupted kid time for hours while he goes and gets his brain bath, he keeps trying to spare me, but then I can see exactly what you're saying in him. Like he's stressed out, and when he's with Edie, he's like kind of tweaking almost because he just wants to get out of here. And I told him, I'm like, I don't care. Saturday, you go. On Sunday, I'm going to ask for 4 hours. Let's just balance it out and we'll get it over with. Like, and my 4 hours for me, it might be like, hey, I want to go for a jog. I'm having a little bit of a hard time lately with my allergies and asthma. And especially now with the general conversation, it's like all of a sudden, like every night at 9:30, I think I'm dying. And so I'm like, you know, I'm going to do 21-day fix in the house and then maybe I'll stay inside. But like the time for me, like literally all I've told him, and when we went through our little like exercise of talking about the things that are important to us or the things that we used to have that are still important, I told him, I'm like, when you guys weren't here during the day, if I had a minute to myself, I used to play piano for like 20 minutes. And I like to do that, but I don't want an audience. I just want to play. I just want to like mess around and see if I can figure something out. And he's like, we can give you 20 minutes a day to play piano. Like, we can definitely do that.
Right.
We'll figure it out. Those will be the 20 minutes I go outside with her or something like that. Or I just want to, honestly, my biggest thing is I just want to be alone for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all I need is like, I just need.
That's important.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. So I think my advice would be for people who are kind of doing this shift work with a partner or with another caretaker, grandparent, whatever, is, make your expectations clear and ask for them, because I think everybody's trying to do the best they can, and if you're playing a guessing game, you just might end up hurting yourself or hurting the other person.
Yeah, because you always defer, like, or at least I did whenever, I was in a relationship. It'd be like, look, I want you to take care of you, but then like there's that inherent expectation of, well, then you're going to do that for me, right? And then when that doesn't happen, then then we're back in the tangle that we were talking about earlier. And so it's just important, like, to ask for help when you need it and to take the time when you can for yourself. I mean, it is so important. I fall into these ruts where I don't do that for myself. And I'm always the worst version of myself when I'm in one of those ruts.
Yeah, I do. I mean, not that I think that you're the worst version of you at any given point, but I understand the concept.
Yeah. I hide it. I hide it pretty good.
Me too. Yeah. Every time I put something on Instagram, like with Edie, and I've had people that will respond to like a story and just go, well, at least you guys look like you're having fun. I'm like, no one's fucking having fun. There's nothing fun about this. This is terrible. Like, right. Oh my God. So that being said, this was good for me, and this was my brain bath today. So I appreciate that we were able to do this. For anybody who has enjoyed this, you can always go back to season 1 of the Parentcast, which was filmed in studio. Please. And that's also on anywhere you're going to listen to podcasts. You can use your iHeartRadio app or iTunes. But the other thing I think, Bill, is like, let's just kind of see where this goes. And if you and I need to reconnect again because we need to let it all out, you let me know and I'll be ready to go.
All right. It's always great to see your face. I'm glad
I know, it's good to see you too. It's an odd time, but this definitely makes it like as normal as it can feel just to see another person. So cool. Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Bye.